I'm Tommy Springfield, and as always, I got another great video for you. Like I always say over here, I present you with the facts. I give you my opinion on those facts. And if you like how I do that, click that like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, click all, so you can get notifications every time I drop one of these videos. So today's video is about Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion. Is she lying? Is he lying? This lady says she got new evidence. Let's get into it.
Tory Lanez, convicted of shooting performer Megan Thee Stallion after a party at the Hollywood Hills home of Kylie Jenner. Here's the story. They're at the party. After the party, they get into an argument. Lanez tells Megan Thee Stallion, dance, and shoots at her feet like a cowboy movie, hits her. Proof? Testimony of Megan Thee Stallion, her friend Kelsey Harris, and DNA evidence on the weapon that convinced jurors to convict. Pretty simple, right? Maybe not. Turns out that DNA, only a 0.01% chance that the DNA is from Lanez.
You heard that, 0.0.1% that it can be Tory Lanez. He didn't do it.
He's always maintained his innocence. He was sentenced to 10 years, so this is really about the testimony. Lanez, so what happens? So he goes away, recently stabbed 14 times in prison. Many say it was a hit, okay? Because new evidence is about to come out. All right, a little conspiratorial, but he was definitely stabbed. Lanez supporters believe that the media doesn't care because Megan Thee Stallion is represented by Jay-Z's Rock Nation. Now, I could give a damn about Jay-Z or his company. This just wasn't a case on my radar until now. Why?
See, that's what happened. When they don't give a damn about you, they get all up in your shit, and they find out the information that's been being hid. And right now, it looks like Meg Thee Stallion, horsehead ass bitch, was lying.
Anna Paulina Luna. She is a representative from Florida. You see her here on a regular basis. She says she's got new evidence, says it wasn't him. And she joins us now. Representative APL, it's good to have you.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be back on. And thanks for taking a look at this case.
No, listen, you tell me to take a look at it, I'll look at it. But why did you look at it? I mean, this isn't your jurisdiction. I don't know you to have any connection to any of these people.
Yeah, so as you know, we are on oversight and accountability. And so this case was actually initially flagged for me by Amber Rose. And the reason why I took a particular interest in it is because of the fact that they actually had evidence that they presented to me in my office that actually disproved the conviction. So as you stated earlier, that 0.01% of DNA, they actually found 4 people's DNA on that firearm, none of which was Tory's, not to mention
4 people DNA was found on the gun, but not Tory's. But he's the only one in prison. Crazy.
There was 0 fingerprints on the actual magazine. And also, too, as you said, 0.01% chance. I mean, that evidence in itself should pretty much speak for itself. Also, there's been ring footage that's been obtained that actually disproves the whole dance, Megan. And so what we're seeing is really there was a case of...
And there's ring footage. None of this was brung up at his trial. It was hidden, and we're gonna get to why.
He said, she said, the evidence wasn't actually respected and properly adhered to actually in the trial. And then they also were doing something that I would find pretty wild and egregious. They were actually submitting his lyrics for rap as evidence to the crime. So look, first and foremost, you have to have a free and fair society. That means we need to respect and uphold the justice system. So I actually reached out today to Gavin Newsom's office, and we are requesting an emergency meeting. We're also working with other Democrats, specifically to the California delegation. But I think that this is something that's pretty egregious, that the way that this was handled, the way that it was. I think that it was largely driven by headlines. And aside from the people involved,
my question is, can Megan be put in jail? We want that bitch in jail. We want her to sit as goddamn long as goddamn Tory sat, and we want her to feel the blade.
and the parties involved. Obviously, I take domestic violence, I take this very seriously, Chris, but I also take very seriously the fact that I do believe, based on the evidence that I've seen, that Tory's innocent. And I think that it sets a really bad message when you have someone of his stature, and also to someone that is as influential as he is, that's being wrongfully incarcerated. And that's exactly why we wanted to use our megaphone for a good reason and help get him his pardon, which I think he'll get.
So Luna, who did it? I mean, she says, and her friends say that he did it. And who else would have done it? And what proof do you have to support that? I get it. Maybe they didn't make the case the right way with the weapon, but who did it?
You know, Chris, that's not for me to weigh in, and that's definitely for the judge and the jury. But what I will tell you is based on the evidence that we have, says that he wasn't the guy. And so I do think that
the evidence they had said he wasn't the guy. Was that a clue? There's another guy in the car, and there's two girls in the car, and we believe was the shooter, allegedly.
Gavin Newsom has some great attorneys that will look at this, but I'd also like to point out that the prosecutor specifically on this case that initially brought the charges is a very interesting prosecutor. Look into who ran him. And at the end of the day, you know, I think Hollywood, as you know, Chris, and politics does overlap, and there's a lot of interesting stuff that happened there. So look at the evidence for yourself. We've posted it for the entire world to see, to determine for themselves. And I know that Tory's legal team actually has an incredible case. And so we are calling on Gavin Newsom to issue that pardon immediately. And also remember, he was almost killed in jail. I actually talked to him today on the phone, and he said that once he does get out, once he does get this pardon, which I do feel confident that he'll be getting, he's going to work extensively in prison reform, because this should never happen to anyone.
Anna Paulina Luna, this is a
facts. This should never happen, and I hope Megan the Horsehead goes to prison. So. Excuse me, you cough every once in a while when you smoke this good shit. But let's get into another news clip on why the prosecutor in this case was bad. Let's get to that.
We heard, that possibly he could be exonerated here. I want you to give my audience what they don't know and your analysis of actually what went down.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. And I got to tell you, I've been involved in looking into this case for almost about 6 months exactly now. It was brought to me by a board member, Diana London, with the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety, who regularly said she believed Tory Lanez was innocent. And as I looked through the case and I noticed a number of irregularities in the case, I began to come to that same conclusion, that this was an innocent person. Let me take you back to the very beginning.
So we have state representatives, we have senators saying they got evidence saying this man guilty. Now we got this man from a whole different program who helped innocent people get out of prison saying this man is innocent. So everybody, who's the guilty one? Oh, we don't want to talk about that. And I hope all those Megan Thee Stallion fans are bad enough and bold enough to say, yo, we fucked up. We was following this bitch and she out here shooting people and we helped lock this man up. I hope they all willing to do that.
First and foremost, we got a George Soros-funded prosecutor named George Gascon, who was prosecuting this case. He was, at the time, coming off of his second recall attempt. He was in severe trouble as he had lost support in numerous demographics, key demographics to his electoral success, including Black women. And he needed to do whatever he could to possibly win this election. I believe if Jesus Christ was Tory Lanez's attorney, Tory Lanez would have still lost his case no matter what. Tory's attorneys have alleged prosecutorial misconduct, suppressing of evidence, exculpatory evidence being withheld, and I believe them based on the facts. Let me take you to Kelsey Harris, who was in the car, because there was 4 people in the car that night. Tory's bodyguard, Kelsey Harris, Megan Pete, also known as Megan Thee Stallion, and then Tory himself. When they got into this particular altercation, Megan Thee Stallion, and her best friend, according to the new evidence that has been mentioned by way of an affidavit from Kelsey Harris's bodyguard during the days of trial, he admits to hearing her say in the car to a male passenger who's believed to be her child's father that she, one, how could she testify without telling on herself? Number one, she went to court that day, pleaded the fifth. The prosecution gave her immunity. Immunity from what? She was never accused by the prosecution. She was never accused by...
So you heard him. She was heard to say, how can I go to court and testify and not tell on myself? She went to court. She pled the fifth. Then she was given immunity. You're only given immunity to avoid setting yourself up. Let's get back to the video.
Megan P. Why plead the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination? That didn't make sense to me. According to the bodyguard in another conversation in that car during this same period of time, she says that she got the gun out the car, which was in her bag, shot the gun in the air 3 times. Tory ran over there to stop her, pushing her hand down, and 2 more gunshots went into the ground. That is where it's reasonable to believe the wounds came from for Megan Thee Stallion. But why is it that they never tested her DNA onto the gun? You knew that she had gunpowder on her hand. They found that out. Why didn't they test that?
So the girl had gunpowder in her hand, but they never tested her. That's crazy. But Tory, Prince or nothing was on the gun. He had no gunpowder on him, but he's doing 10 years. But y'all following Meg the Horsehead bitch, right?
That. Why is it that they added this enhancement to his case? Now, enhancements are used for violent gang members, people with a history of brutal crime. George Gascon has had numerous people who have had brutal crimes that he didn't recommend an enhancement. One by the name of Raymond Danger Gonzalez, who murdered, premeditated 2 individuals, including a teenager, and he stole their money. No recommendation for enhancements from George Gascon. Or the General Hospital actor Johnny Wagner. He was brutally murdered. No recommendation for enhancements. So this led me to believe instantly that George Gascon had put on a front. He wanted to pretend to be tough on crime so he could have a silver bullet for his next election because he had a black woman that he can say that he protected. And it's insane that unfairness is pushing through our justice system, but we've seen this with numerous cases with George Gascon. And that's why the Caldwell Institute got involved in this case, because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
So I want to kind of break down what you said there and make sure I'm getting it correctly. Basically, what you're telling me is that, and what we heard as well, is that Tory Lanez was just trying to de-escalate it and, smacked the gun down to, try to lessen the damage or the violence or the carnage that could occur, and then that's what happened. Why do you think Megan Thee Stallion, we saw her social media post, why do you think she's gunning for Tory Lanez so hard? Do you think that she actually thinks that he did it? Or do you think that maybe there's some other motivations there? Because she's pretty adamant that he shot her.
Well, I can't speak to what her thoughts are. I can only surmise what I think makes sense logically. One, you said from the very beginning that he did it, and you never mentioned your best friend. Your best friend got immunity. Immunity from what? And this has been a career high for her since that incident occurred. So if people come out and, for those who may not know, Tory Lanez recently was stabbed in prison multiple times, almost lost his life, stabbed in the back of the head, stabbed in the face, stabbed in the stomach, literally almost died. And there's an instance for that I want to get into in our next bite. But yeah, if people found out that she lied about the situation, then that would be career suicide for her. She would lose a lot of support. You put a man in jail for 10 years, and he's already served almost 3 of those years. And to that point that I mentioned earlier, in terms of him getting stabbed in prison, I've been working on an op-ed with the New York Post, almost a month working on this op-ed. We had just gotten to the point where they felt comfortable enough to go out for comment to George Gascon, Kelsey Harris, and Megan Thee Stallion's camp. Megan Thee Stallion's camp reached out and said, hey, we want to know what you have in an op-ed. We want more information. The Post set up a call with them. They told them what they had. I'm not sure exactly what details they shared. But then days later, Tory Lanez is almost murdered in prison. Is there a connection there? I don't know, but it's quite eerie, to be honest. So this is a really messy ball, one in which, as a 10-year member of the press, I'm really bizarrely intrigued why there hasn't been members of the press all over this story, because there's been so many elements that does not make sense and beg open questions. We have so many questions that need to be answered. Prosecution couldn't answer it, the media couldn't answer it, and certainly Megan P has not answered it.
The press is not on it because they don't want to be on it. Nobody wants smoke with the almighty Rock Nation. She's being protected, money's being spent, and they're just trying to make Tory look like shit, because the opposite end of Tory looking like shit is the truth. Meg Thee Stallion and her homegirl pulled a fast one, and they got a black man 10 years in prison. Like I always say, I present you with the facts. I give you my opinion on those facts. If you like how I do that, click that like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, click all, so you can get notifications every time I drop one of these videos. If you're a supporter of the channel, much love and respect goes out to you. I salute. And if you're one of these haters like Megan Thee Stallion getting dudes 10 years for your professional game, cut the shit. That part.